People who got divorced after 20 plus years together. What was the reason? A friend's parents got divorced when she was in high school. They'd been together nearly 20 years, but they argued constantly. After they got divorced, her dad bought the other half of the duplex they lived in and became best friends with her mom. They went out to dinner several nights a week, never fought over what to do with the kids, helped each other with bills. They just dated other people too. My friend said she wished they would have done that years ago. My aunt and uncle were best friends their whole lives. They got married, raised 3 girls, and when the youngest was 18 my aunt confessed she wanted a divorce. They live across town from each other and see each other all the time. My dad swears they are as good friends now as they were before they got married. Sometimes it just works out that way. Parents divorced after 22 years when my mother cheated. Dad felt bad and hurt but acknowledged he might have been part of the problem. Emotional distance. So he wanted to work through it with therapy and stuff. She agreed to work through it and then cheated again a week later. The divorce was messy. This sounds exactly like my parents. Not me, but my roommate. His wife left him after about 20 years. When he moved in he said he couldn't figure out why. After living with him for 6 months I've asked him to move out, and I can give him a reason for people not wanting to be around him. He's a closet alcoholic. He hides the bottles in the bottom of the recycling bin. He's insanely freaking lazy. He doesn't clean anything. He was unemployed for 3 years while married yet never learned basic skills like cooking or cleaning. He was working 30 hours a week when he moved and then asked for reduced hours because he couldn't handle it. Now he's at 15 hours and says he's looking for another job because he can't make ends meet. He stalks his daughters who don't want to see him. The scary thing is he doesn't think it's stalking because they're his daughters. Nope. Even people call you and request you to stop parking outside their homes and watching them because you're not welcome. That's freaking stalking. Oh, and he sleeps more than my cat, but I see that as his best feature. Yep, his wife had good reasons. She put up with that for 20 years. Whoa. My girlfriend got divorced after 20 years. About 10 years in he started to drink more and then more as time went on. She picked up the slack he left and tried everything to turn it around. 7 years she worked on it because my husband is my best friend and you don't abandon your best friend when they are in trouble. She tried all she could and he drank more and more. He became a shell of a mean man and she left when the youngest could drive. She is still sad. He died 120 days after the divorce was final. Now she feels the guilt. Posted about this 3 years ago I think. But basically, my parents, mostly my mom, used to yell and fight a lot. It actually got pretty bad and my mom decided to get a divorce after 20 years of marriage and 3 children. My dad was devastated. He's a hard-working man and has trouble expressing his love and care for his own family. We're Chinese. His way of showing it was by working like a dog to provide for us. My mom is also a hard-working woman but she was always upset that he would rather be working than spend time with us. That is, go on vacations and basically just spend time together as a family. I see where both of them were coming from. In Idaho, they were separated and divorced for 4 years. My mom is a stubborn woman. The day she filed for divorce was the first time I have ever seen my dad cry. This guy slices 1/4 of his finger and doesn't bat an eyelash. She basically ignored him when he came over to visit. He basically gave her all the money he made to provide for her and us 3 kids, no coercion and anything. He just wanted to provide for his children. Fast forward 4 years to the year of my graduation from university. I only had 2 tickets, so I invite my parents of course. I wasn't sure how well they would get along and I frankly thought they would be bored. Heck, I originally wasn't even going to attend, which is why I could only get 2 tickets short notice. They actually got along and took a lot of pictures together, even ditched me and went to Chinatown after the ceremony. I come home later that night and my dad has his arm around my mom's shoulder. Very weird for me because I have never seen that in my life and I was almost 22 at the time. He tells us, in Cantonese, "Your mom has decided to be my woman again." Both me and my brothers were floored. I thought it would have never happened in a million years. I'm kind of glad the divorce happened though. They get along a lot better now and actually go out on dates, which is weird but cute. I'm glad it worked out in the end. It's been 8 years after that day and they are still together. They communicate better and understand the other person more now. TLDR. My parents got divorced BC. They didn't communicate well. 4 years later they got back together and the divorce actually helped them realize they still loved each other and learn to accept their differences and communicate better. They are still together now since then. Thank you for sharing this story in this thread. It's nice to hear about things working out well in the end, even if the journey getting there was rough. We were very independent, separate from the beginning. Very different views on raising kids, roles of mother versus father, money, etc. When we had children, it was my job as the mother to raise them, do all things domestic, and work full-time outside of the house. While they were in elementary school, he started cheating, which continued until I discovered it many years later. I left him after 26 years of marriage. I see so many people like this. Guys who want nothing to do with raising their kids, but their wives still have jobs as well. Not sure who would marry someone like that. Married as teens. He had multiple affairs during our 20-year marriage. It's sad really. I trusted him completely and was quite devastated to find out he essentially had another life outside our marriage. Late to this thread, but what the heck. Married 16 years, together 18, so close enough. Had a solid relationship that was incredible. Job changes, family dramas, sister tried to kill herself, and it was like we were a team that could take on what life handed out. But then we had the year to end all years, lost 3 out of 4 parents. Her dad had died a long time ago, in a single year, moved to a new house that was still being renovated, and she went back to school to start a new career. All of those combined were like a perfect storm and everything just collapsed. I still don't understand what happened. I think I have seen similar situations. Extremely stressful periods coupled with a different environment where there is new people and new experiences. It's a new life, where all the drama is gone. Meanwhile, when she returned to you, she was returning to the boring, stressful life, the one that reminded her of all of life hardships. I'm so sorry for you. Internet hug. I have a friend whose grandparents divorced after 20 years because the man cheated. They spent the next 10 years living their own lives, marrying other people and eventually divorcing. About 5 years ago the woman got very sick, and the man heard about it. He moved from the state he'd been living in to where she was and helped her get better. He was retired and she wasn't, so he'd visit her at the hospital and stay all day. Then when she had to go back to work, he drove her to work and stayed at her work all day until it was time for her to go home. They got remarried 2 years ago. That story always gave me faith in love for some reason. That is a very different story. Thanks for sharing. Not 20 years but very close. My ex completely took me for granted, was dependent on me for everything, never met my needs in any way. The last 10 years I was just trying to get through it for our children's sake, but eventually I couldn't keep up the charade anymore. We're still friends and spend time together for the sake of our children. They cared but not loved each other. I believe they were just waiting for my sister and I to grow older so we wouldn't have to do the whole weekends with dad type of thing. Putting the kids before their own happiness. That's really noble of them. Although I think seeing you and your sister be able to grow up in a whole family might have meant certain happiness for them. My parents were married close to 40 years and divorced. Dad is definitely on the spectrum and just doesn't understand normal emotions. He kept up pretenses when we were younger, but just stopped giving a crap later in life. Without children in the house to buffer their interactions, my dad's behavior became increasingly bizarre and inappropriate, and my mom's physical and emotional health started deteriorating. So we encouraged them to go their separate ways. Easier said than done. They're both products of the 50s, meaning my mom felt obligated to stick around and dad felt he should be allowed to do whatever he wanted, particularly because he made more money that he then spent on himself. It was a clusterfuck. But I'm happy to say they are now divorced and living their own separate but fulfilling lives. Mom is devoted to caring for her grandbabies, and dad to his trophy wife. After 27 years. But I won't focus on the last 5, because those are symptoms, not causes. We never should have married in the first place. We had a huge argument about a month before our wedding that would have split us up had we not been engaged, with invitations sent and venue booked. I buckled and went back on my knees to avoid the mess of undoing all that. My parents divorced after 20 years. They should have gotten divorced after 5 or 6. They were pretty miserable and fought often. My parents were together for almost 30 years and then my mother and I found out my father had married another woman. My parents aren't legally divorced because of Sharia law complications, but needless to say we haven't seen him since. His lying, cheating and generally being an all-round T. I brought the children up, worked 4 jobs which enabled me to never miss a school event. When the children finally left home I knew I had earned my freedom. If you asked him what was wrong he'd reply that I kicked him out for no reason. But frankly I should have done it when the children were tiny. The result would not have been different. I was the one who brought them up, helped with school events, and was there for them whatever. He was off screwing anything he could stick his dong in. The really crappy thing was he gave me an STD and did not tell me. Not a nice man as it happens. 4 jobs goddamn girl. 16 years. Together for 20. No children due to medical issues for both of us. We turned into roommates that slept in the same bed at night. We stopped talking, communicating and basically did our own things even when we had time off together. Argued about money all the time. She had a much better job than I did. And finally decided to separate, divorce. There is no animosity or hard feelings between us. But we no longer talk. That is the lie that I tell everyone. Friends, family, co-workers. She cheated on me constantly and blamed me for her cheating when she admitted it. The last time she could not even admit it to me. I just wanted to be respected enough for the truth, but that was too difficult for her, I guess. There is not a day that goes by that I do not think about her and what I could have done differently to make her stay and love me. Ouch bro. I hope your life gets better. Would have celebrated our 25th 6 months after the divorce was final. He was bonking his 20 years younger administrative assistant, read secretary. Said I want a divorce when I confronted him. I said, see ya, bye. Found out he was bonking various other persons prior to that. He married her. I married an awesome guy I met after. It's all good except for our daughters who are caught in the middle and the loss of a family. Oh, and in retrospect, my vague sense that he was an butthole for those 25 years was actually spot on. I am the product of a marriage that lasted 24 years. My mom was in it with her whole heart, ready to make it work however she could. She even sold the home she loved and moved an hour and a half away from her job to make my father happy. My father always liked brand new things. New cars, new jobs. I guess it wasn't such a surprise when it turned out he liked new women too. He cheated on my mom, hid it from her. Told her the real reason was because he wanted to move several states away because he knew my mom couldn't leave. Family reasons. I love my dad, but I can't say I'm not super happy that my mom moved back to the area she loves. Found the boyfriend of a year who loves her dearly, is in the best shape of her life, and is happier than ever. My dad is still with the woman he cheated on her with. He has admitted he isn't happy with his life, but I think his problem is that he never was very happy with anything. I do wish he was happy, but I wonder if the divorce has made him reconsider his lifestyle choices. I pray it did. Hope so too. Had a 25-year run, 20 years good, then 5 awful. Root cause? He grew in a different direction. He changed. I became more liberal and open-minded. He went from laid-back stoner dude with job to unemployed white power angry conspiracy theorist man. The 5 bad years were bad. Since we split my life has blossomed, so that is good. His has not, which I am uncomfortable to say makes me happy. I wish I could be cleanly and honestly compassionate, but instead it feels like vindication. Parents separated after 25 years of marriage. They never took time to take care of their relationship. It was all about the family. When the last kid left the house, and they faced only each other for the first time, they called it quit. And other stuff for sure. My parents got divorced after 40 plus years of marriage. Mum was a raging alcoholic. Dad was an abusive, kids not mum, butthole. I'm the youngest kid and me and my brothers figured they were waiting for me to graduate high school then they would get divorced. Nope. They waited till I was 31. I figure it's best because you don't want to live your last 20 years with the person who makes you your worst. Mom drank cause dad was in butthole. Dad was in butthole because mom drank. Obviously a whole lot more to the story, but it's one of the reasons I say I will never get married. I'm 37 now. My parents were married for 25 years then almost divorced. Honestly, I was actually hoping that they would. They were constantly arguing when I was growing up and things were always tense in the house. I was never close with my dad from the constant emotional and physical abuse I got from him. I went studying abroad for a year and he never called or asked about me once. The only time he talked to me was after I came back and he asked me about Germany. I knew something was off at that moment. Turns out, my dad cheated on my mom, again with some woman in Germany. He did it once or twice when I was little. In fact, he missed my birth because he was out with a girlfriend. But back then, my grandparents didn't believe in divorce. This time, my mom was fed up and started divorce procedures. Around the same time, my sister got married and had my niece. My parents bonded a bit during all that and made up, deciding their family was more important than anything else. They're not in love but they're friendly with one another now. I don't hear my parents arguing anymore and they actually go on trips together now. My dad moved back home. Things are still tense between us but he's not abusing me anymore after I struck back the last time he hit me. It was immediately after he cheated. I was 21 and it suddenly clicked that I shouldn't be afraid of someone I no longer respected. I've forgiven him for cheating because I know that my parents' relationship wasn't working in the first place. But it'll take far longer to forgive him for the years of abuse and emotional trauma that I still need to deal with. Good luck with that, mate. My dad's parents, my grandparents got divorced after 20 or so years when my dad was in college around the time that they retired and realized that they didn't actually like each other anymore. I believe they both worked a ton, had kids fast, and then once they had time to spend together they realized they are very different people with almost nothing in common. My grandmother is a crazy self-centered person. My grandfather is one of the nicest, social, and amazing people I know. It's crazy how they could even have kids and live together at all. Of course this is all my impressions from knowing them now, but still it's mind-blowing to think they even interacted at all. I was looking at this thread like any other one to which I can't really answer. Then I realized that, as of last month, my parents could answer this, and I would love to read it, because I have no idea why. Sorry buddy. Hope things get better for you. My wife's grandparents divorced after 50 years of marriage. They were both extremely prideful and were probably emotionally divorced long before the actual one. They fought like newlyweds and had never learned how to resolve their differences. They finally got divorced when he started cheating on her with a girl he dated 50 years earlier. It's sad on all fronts, but what gets me the most is that he probably had to take Viagra just to be able to cheat. My parents divorced after 24 years in February of this year. My family basically didn't know why my dad wanted this divorce. My mom and I found out last week that my dad was cheating on her for 2 years. It's been really messy, stressful since I still live with my mom. My parents, dad always moderately sketchy but no one really noticed except me. I found out about a second cell phone and he denied it and made me feel stupid. Would stay out really late, wouldn't ever answer our calls, etc. One day I had enough and called him out on it, asked him where he was. He was a 62-year-old man getting home at 1 AM on a Thursday night and I had never heard him mention he has friends once in my life. Got caught, said he would change. Mom and him were going to work things out. Got caught cheating again a month later. Mom noped the frick out of that relationship. They were married for 26 years. Now, my mom and I live a happy life. I am blissfully happy in my marriage of 10 plus years currently, but we both had bad first marriages. My husband worked 2 jobs for his wife to stay home with their 3 kids, what she wanted. He caught her cheating when the kids were young, and on his mom's advice tried to save the marriage. His mom told him that the kids won't see mom cheated, they will see dad left, which is true, sadly. So because he is an awesome dad and a good man, he gave her a second chance and they stayed married for another decade or so. Then when his kids were all teens, she started cheating again. At least he caught her again this time. He told her to leave. She gladly walked out of their home and left him and their 3 kids without a backward glance. He then finished raising 3 kids on his own. I was married for 16 years to an angry, volatile and violent man. I tried leaving when my kids were little, and he tracked us down and I was scared and stupid and had no support. Good Christians don't divorce, you know, and I went back home with him. Took another decade before I got the courage, skills and plan together to safely get myself and my then teenage kids safely away from him. I think that both my now husband and myself appreciate what we have so much more because of what we came from. I had only been single a year when we got together, but he had been single for 13 years. We had both tried to be good spouses and got treated badly by bad spouses. We raised kids on our own, because our ex-spouses only cared about themselves. We both feel incredibly blessed to have each other, and we have a wonderful, easy, comfortable relationship. The fact that my daughters worship the ground he walks on doesn't hurt any either. I'm happy you guys found each other. Wishing both of you a long and happy marriage. We married young, 24. I think she got more attention from other men and me working away. She had to be in control, her way or the highway. We are divorcing because she is in love with my ex-best friend, who is leaving his wife after 23 years. My marriage was 15 years. PFF, best of luck to them. Sounds like they have a case of the grass is greener. Sorry your marriage failed. Parents, 25 years. Dad got together with neighbor's friend and then he wanted a divorce. Didn't put any effort or money toward it. Left it all for mom. I'm rather sure he was cheating on mom for a long time. Just found someone that actually wanted to listen to his balls. Now, 10 years later, mom is good but still a bit bitter, and dad acts like nothing ever happened. Mother and father divorced after my brother and I finished high school. Best explanation is that both are incredibly kind-hearted, so that there was very little conflict for a while. Yet both had terrible conflict resolution skills and didn't communicate their concerns with each other in a constructive, healthy way. My mom was the type to be angry about one thing and then blow up at us for something minor and unrelated in order to displace her anger. It made you paranoid to be around her when she was mad about something, even if that something had nothing to do with you. My dad was the type who tried to completely avoid conflict instead of resolving it, so he'd not voice his concerns and instead brood on his anger, becoming more bitter and jaded until he drank a fifth of vodka every night to quell his rage. That only led him to have extremely angry outbursts, and eventually the two couldn't handle each other anymore. Both have become much better people in these regards over the years following their divorce. My mom takes SSRIs and my dad quit drinking. Needless to say though, my brother and I are scared shitless of relationships after having been raised around that. I'm 24, he's 25, and neither of us has even been in a relationship yet. Ouch. Sometimes it's difficult to believe things can be better than what you grew up with. Hope you guys find people you can connect with and be happy with. I got divorced after 20 years. Our marriage lasted 15 years longer than it should have. Our relationship began with him working a job that required him to be gone a lot, with me not knowing when he would return. This was early 90s, and cell phones didn't exist for most people. He left that job and we moved near my family. His family basically sucked and we wanted the kids to understand what a true family is. After moving, his jealousy got seriously bad. It wasn't normal jealousy, it was very narcissistic. If someone flirted with me, he didn't get mad at a guy, he got mad because no one flirted with him. He was constantly looking for attention in that way and many others, and after 5 years of marriage, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I backed way off on giving him the attention he craved. Instead, I gave him healthy attention. He needed more than that. He was seeking attention that he never got from his terribly abusive father. He started having affairs. He twisted truths and manipulated me into begging him to stay. He needed attention that badly. Finally, he told he didn't love me. He told me this because I was very wrapped up with my father dying. Yes, he wanted all of my attention while my father was on his deathbed. He was having another affair, and apparently this woman was going to save him from me. I told him to go. I didn't beg him to stay. That's what he wanted. But I was grieving my father. My father died, and my ex didn't even attempt to console me. Not even a hug. Instead, He sodomized me. That was the end of it. I told him he would never touch me again. He filed for divorce a few weeks later. My aunt and uncle did. She was the other woman in my uncle's previous marriage. The relationship got abusive a couple of years in, but she stayed until the kids graduated from college. It was a typical for the children marriage trap. It sucked for everyone involved, especially my cousins. It made reunions very unpredictable because we didn't know who was coming or not. In my culture, not inviting a family member when everyone else's can cause serious intrigue, or if we should ask them how their lives are doing. I never thought they would, but they finally did. They have been together since middle school. Dad is black, mom is white, so this was far before it was acceptable in society. They then raised 4 kids by themselves and both worked hard to provide and both have very good jobs. You would think people who have been through so much would stay together, but in the end, they were 2 different people. My dad wants to go out and see the world and have fun, while my mom would rather eat healthy, stay at home and read or knit and take care of grandkids. They mutually divorced and I'm just happy how civil they were about the whole thing. They were together for right around 30 years. My parents got divorced recently after 24 years together. Honestly, it kind of started because of the poor economy. My mom lost her job more than once over the course of 2 years and spent a lot of time unemployed. She got rather depressed and had a bit of a midlife crisis. She cheated on my dad. Now they are finally divorced after being separated for several years. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.